All right, what's going on, everybody? This is Richard, your host from Too Rich to Miss podcast and also a voiceover artist. This one is going live on our channel, and I'll be doing the replay, posting the replay on my voiceover channel as well. What we want to talk about today, I want to go over some voiceover tips. And these are voiceover tips from my experience thus far as going hardcore pursuing voiceover here strong for the past what's this, August? So for a solid going nonstop with this for about 8 months, going on 8 months now. And I wanted to kind of give some of my observations and some of the things that I've observed and learned up to this point, and some things that I'm sure to learn going forward. Mostly about what I've learned up to this point, and just some suggestions for some of the new people that may help them to avoid spending on some things that really aren't necessary, and hopefully be to help somebody avoid some of the traps along the way that I actually stepped in. So let's kind of dive right in. I made some notes here as well, so if you see me kind of look down, I'm actually looking at my notes to make sure I don't forget anything or don't overlook anything. So let's go on and dig in. First tip, find a good voiceover coach. Not necessarily one from social media. Now, here's my thoughts on that. Number one, a good voiceover coach, I'm learning and have learned, is well worth their weight in gold. And the reason why I say that is because when you have a good voiceover coach, you have somebody that is going to help you find your voice. They're going to help you with developing your skills as a voice actor. They're going to help you to be able to answer some of the real questions. And when I say answer some of the real questions, I'm saying that from the standpoint of giving you an actual real answer versus giving you some BS that's only going to cause you to have another question later on that's going to cause you to have to pay for another session, or that's going to prompt you to buy one of their courses, or it's going to prompt you to have to continue in the cycle of sessions, or it's going to prompt you to join one of their private groups, that mastermind groups, quote unquote, or one of those type of things. So it gets back to something I had talked about on my on the Too Rich to Miss channel before: value. Are you really getting value from what is being given to you? And for a voiceover coach, you're looking for somebody that's going to be able to really help you get to what you need to be doing, making money as a voiceover artist. And obviously, as a voiceover artist, you have to learn how to first be a voiceover artist and what that means and what to do and all of the antics that goes along with that. So a good voiceover coach is a wonderful thing. Now, we're going to go into online classes. And I have mixed feelings about online classes. Now, they're good, but on the same token, I feel like you have to not get too wrapped up in just going to class after class after class after class after class without actually doing some real action and putting some real action into what you're doing. Now, if you're taking a class to learn some better tips and tricks for your DAW, okay, I can understand that and see why that's something you can see value in. I mean, and even some of the classes that are giving you some information about some different parts of the voiceover industry, I can understand that and see why you might pay for a class in that. But I would say take the money that you're going to spend on a class and just pay and just invest in coaching, direct coaching, where the person is going to be directly dealing and talking to you and directly working and developing you and your talent and what you're trying to do and what your goals are as a voiceover artist and where you're trying to go. but everybody's goals are different. Where everybody wants to go is different. And, so you have to adjust all of that accordingly. But I still go back to the first thing that I'm saying. A voiceover coach, a good, solid voiceover coach, a good, solid voiceover coach whose first interest is actually really coaching you, and their first interest is not a check via the numbers. How can you tell the difference, you might be asking? Well, you have to really look at what they're putting out. What are they putting out? As far as an individual, look at what they're doing. Can you, when they talk about what they've done in the past, can you actually hear some of the stuff that they've done in the past? What's their resume? Do they have a resume? Or is it one of those type of things where it seems like when you look from the outside looking in, it looks like they have a doggone factory going on where they've realized that you can actually generate, I'm sure as a coach, when I just think about the numbers, I'm quite sure it's easier to book a ton of us new people who really don't know what we don't know and start to leech in, well, not leech, that's a bad word, pull us in and get us sucked into a cycle of spending money for classes or coachings with them, and them kind of slow feeding us purposely for their own benefit, So, but then on the same token, you have to take the time to look at it for yourself. What are you going to be getting in value that's going to benefit you and your voiceover career from these coachings from this individual? And truth be told, at the end of the day, everybody's different. It's your own thing. Do what you want to do, like the old song used to say by Salt and Pepper. But anyway, so if you're getting value from paying money for a mastermind group that you can find somewhere else and not have to pay for, cool. If you're fine with going to a whole bunch of classes, sitting and just listening to PowerPoint presentation after PowerPoint presentation, and not really and slow moving into getting your voiceover career started, then okay, then hey, whatever you like to do is what you like to do. But I'm talking about for the people really trying to get in here and do something, for the go-getters is really trying to go out here and go get it, for the people who really aren't, who have decided, okay, yeah, I'm going to do voiceover and I really want to see what it is. I want to find out about this business. I really want to learn it, and I really want to learn this craft and do it right. A solid voiceover coach. Now, I'm sure some of the new people might be saying, well, Richard, who would you recommend as a voiceover coach? Honestly, I really don't have anybody that I would like to recommend at this particular point, because everybody's goals is different, and who you connect with is going to be different. Your personality might vibe with somebody that I say, that I don't recommend. Or your personality might not vibe with somebody that I do recommend. Just take the time to be mindful and make sure that you are actually getting out of the sessions something valuable and meaningful that's going to benefit your career, and more so, that's going to get you closer to getting jobs and to getting work and to getting this paper. Bills still got to be paid, and yes, it's a wonderful thing being in the booth, doing characters, doing commercials, doing the reads and really nailing that read, the way you just, where you really interpreted that script right, and you can know that you hit every point and every inflection was where it should have been. Every pause was on point, every start, stop, the tempo and everything was right. And when you hear it back and it's clear and it's broadcast quality and you're like, oh my God, yeah, that's it. So yeah, that's great. That's wonderful. It's cool, especially being able to do funny voices and characters and all of that stuff, which I can't do a lot of those, but it's the animation market with what they can do with all of that. I think it's really cool, the guys who can do all of those different voices. But the moral to the story is, at the end of the day, somebody got to pay for all of these likes and for the sake of being here. And I mean, hey, every day still has to be taken care of. Families had to be taken care of, kids, wife, date nights, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, yes, we love being in the booth and doing this, but on the same token, we have to take the time to make sure we're getting some revenue. But then that gets back to your goals. What are your goals? So if it depends on what your goals are. I mean, if your goals are, if you have everything else set up properly and it's a business, yes, but it's more of a hobby and and there's really no rush and you really have all of the time in the world and, to be able to really do what you do, you're retired or something like that, and this is just the next thing that you're going into, then your trajectory and the steps that you'll take to advance your voiceover career is going to be different than someone else, who may be getting out there trying to really go get it and get it started and get generating money and being as efficient and effective as possible while still learning the craft and still improving. Because I think learning your craft and being as good as possible is great. And that's what we should all strive to do as being professionals. But that's just kind of my take on that. And something else in terms of online classes. They're really good when you're at a place of learning where the information will be impactful. And I'm saying that because I started off one of my experiences. I started out with gravy for the brain. And when you go to Gravy from the Brain, they have a section of classes. I started over there, paid for their I got gifted their initial class, and then I went over there, did those, and then I dug in over there and did a lot of stuff with them and got off of theirs. And I initially this year, when I started back actually in November, when I really decided to I'm going to really set this structure up and really dig in, I went and I started, as I'm sure a lot of you have heard, they say the things where you got to have a commercial demo. You got to have a professional website. You got to have your demo on VoiceZam. You got to have, professional business cards. You got to have, what else do you have to actually have? And then it goes into what are you going to be doing as far as generating business, and then which gets into one of my other topics. But online classes, when you're at the beginning, at the very, very beginning, you don't know anything. Somebody talking to you about marketing and email campaigns and email marketing and all of that is really, okay, that's cool information, but if you're brand spanking new, you barely know how to interpret a script and actually do the work. So an in-depth class about marketing when you're brand spanking new is really kind of counterproductive, because even if you nail the marketing piece and a flood of work started coming in, if you don't know how to interpret scripts right, if you don't know your DAW, if you can't produce a professional, clear-sounding product for the client to be able to use, then, you're going to be dead in the water anyway. So that's why I said it's important to just, to be able to have a coach. Yes, you want to get some information. Yes, you want to be knowledgeable on how the business works. But when it comes to really digging in and learning your craft on how to do it, and all the marketing in the world is not going to help you if you can't do the work when the people start to hit you from your marketing efforts, which we'll talk about later. But this brings me into the next thing that I want to talk about. Learn your DAW. DAW being your digital audio workstation. Learn your DAW. Learn your DAW. It's very important to make sure you know how to get around your DAW to process your work as best, as efficient, and as effective as possible. More so, it's about time. And it gets down, and once again, with DAWs, everybody has their thing. Now, me personally, I've used Adobe products for a long time in my graphic design stuff that I used to do and just some other video stuff that I used to do. I used to use, before it got to be called Adobe Audition, it was Sound Booth back in the day. I was using it when it was Sound Booth. So I'm been familiar with Adobe products, so I use Adobe products. But there's a lot of people out here who use Audacity, which is free. And now, if you're just getting into this, you're brand spanking new, I would honestly suggest you go in and dig in and use Audacity and learn Audacity. I don't know anything about Audacity because it's not something that I'm familiar with. But on the same token, I say when it comes to DAW, start with what you're familiar with. If you've been using Adobe products, dig in with Adobe. If you hadn't been using nothing at all and you're just totally green, Audacity is free. Go with Audacity. There's a ton of YouTube channels that talk about different ways to use it, and different little tips and tricks on how you can process your audio with Audacity or one of these other programs. But once again, it's all about using what you're comfortable with. Whichever one you're comfortable using and whichever one you can get through quick, because that is the key in this particular game. High quality and speed. You need to be able to get it done as quickly as possible. Not necessarily for the clients too, but more so for the sake of yourself, because you get paid by the job and you don't get paid by the hour. When you're getting paid by the job, the best thing that you can do is be as efficient as possible to get the jobs done as quickly as possible while still providing the highest quality as possible, because that's what makes your revenue per hour that you generate better. But once again, if you're at the very beginning and you're just hearing this and you're brand spanking new, all of that doesn't really start to matter until you can actually learn the craft to be able to do it. Because here's the thing. Let's say any website, even if you're on a free one, if you're on one of the free platforms, if you're on Upwork or if you're on Fiverr, or we'll talk about that later too. But if you're on one of these other sites, or you're on a pay-to-play, let's say you're on a pay-to-play, and a pay-to-play site is where you actually pay to have access to audition on the site. You're paying for the access to the auditions to be able to audition for the possibility of getting the jobs. Now, on the pay-to-play site, let's say you've paid, and you're getting these auditions. If your craft isn't up to snuff and you aren't, and your auditioning skills aren't on point, guess what's going to happen? You can be auditioning and auditioning and auditioning, but you're not going to be getting the jobs, because when you go on these pay-to-plays, you're competing with people who've been doing this for, good God, forever. You're competing with the top of the top that's already been out here doing it. So, and they don't know that you only been doing this that long. They just hear your audition and they're like, yes or no, yes or no, yes or no, yes or no. And if you're constantly getting no's and no's and no's and no's and no's, if you haven't been properly coached and you don't have a good coach that you're working with on a semi-consistent basis to help develop your craft, you'll find yourself at a point that where you're just auditioning and not getting no work, and then you get frustrated. But what it really should be is that you should make sure that you have a good coaching relationship going on, to where you can actually have your skill and your craft developed, so that when you're investing money in these sites to pay to play, if that's what you choose to go down, then you can actually be at the point where you can compete and be able to win and land these jobs. Now, next thing, and once again, we're still in the midst of learning your DAW. Learn your DAW. It's very important, especially if you're going to be somebody that's going to be, if you want to get into doing audiobooks, if audiobooks is your thing. Audiobooks are a cool thing. And it really gets down when you're doing audiobooks to knowing your DAW and processing. Because, for example, typically speaking, for somebody that's brand spanking new, me, for example, for somebody that's brand spanking new, when you come out there editing a book, it's going to take you on average about 3 to 4 hours of time for every per finished hour. Every per finished hour could equal 3 to 4 hours of actual time. What does that mean? That means for every hour that you're in the booth doing that chapter, you come out, you got to go over, you got to edit it. You listen to it, how fast you read, how not so fast you read. When you're listening to it, did you say all of the words exactly as the author had them? Or as we're reading, was there a word that you just left out? Or was there a word that you put in? And when you go back to listen to it, did you actually nail the inflections? There's different characters in the book. Are your character voices kind of, you see what I'm getting here? And then this is not even talking about the processing part where you have to go in, make sure everything sounds right, get your levels right, to compress or not to compress, to EQ or not to EQ, how much EQ to add, how little EQ to add, to noise gate or to not noise gate, to DS or not to DS, how much to DS, how little to DS, or do I need to DS at all? So all of the processing things to make sure that everything comes out precisely right. If you're not good with your DAW, it's going to take you that much longer in addition to the normal mistakes that you may just make because you're just starting off new. And some of you may be saying, I'm the bomb. I read real fast and I'm perfect. It's not going to take me that long. Oh, okay, cool. So if you got all that part done, then you still have to make sure that you learn your DAW so that you can really be able to get it done quickly and fast. And that's why I get back to use what you know and what you're comfortable with. Because like I know in Audition, you have shortcuts that you can set up. You can, it's some automation you can throw in there. Once you're using some of your stuff, everything is kind of set. So it keeps the settings that you used before. So if you're using the same things, it's boom, boom. You can go right in, put it in, and it's boom, 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 boom. Step, 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 step. Click, click, click. And it's done. And the thing that you can focus on more so is making sure that you're actually nailing the read. Now, next thing. Establish a quality recording environment. Now, here's this is something that was one of my initially biggest challenges, establishing a quality recording environment. Now, you're kind of seeing the back of the recording environment that I'm in right now, and I chose to do what a lot of new voiceover artists do, is build a PVC pipe style booth with which pretty much I've kind of gotten just some mattress foam. Well, the mattress top is kind of around here to provide that, and then I have blankets, which as you can see, there's some behind me. I have the moving blankets that are in here as well behind, that's all around, that's kind of got me encapsulated in here. And kind of the way I have the camera and everything set up is why you're kind of seeing the microphone stand right here based on the way I have the mic set up. So, but establish a quality recording environment. Most people actually, and this is a really cool thing, I just couldn't do it here because of the way my closet is set up, but most people can record right in the closet and not have to do anything. If you got a walk-in closet with even if you got any type of space in a walk-in closet, you can make it work in a walk-in closet. And and the clothes that's in there is acoustically will go through and be your soundproofing for you, and you won't have to do too much extra treatment in there to make the closet right. Now with me, because of the space that I had and the limitations that I had, I built this for the sake of making sure that I had the quality environment that I need, and I know how to use my DAW so that I can go through and take out some of the imperfections in the sound that you may hear. You know, like this is just the video that's going out live, and that'll be replayed later on. So, you know, I know you probably might hear this extra noise in the background. You know, the air might come on and you might hear that, you know, but these are all things that I go through and I can take out in post and still be able to maintain the quality of the sound for my audio, which you can hear if you check me out on SoundCloud, Richard Hawks VO, or if you check me out on my YouTube channel, Richard Hawks VO, or if you check me out on Twitter, Richard Hawks, the number 2, or if you check me out on Instagram, Richard Hawks, the number 2, and also on Facebook as well. But you know, that's where I am at this particular point, where you can be able to hear my commercial demos and my commercial demo and all of that, which we'll talk about as well. Now, for your booth, you be budget conscious. You know, I mean, unless you actually just got it to burn and throw away, one of these whisper rooms, or I can't think of the name of the other one right now, but the whisper room and the other one, I didn't write that name down. But anyway, the whisper rooms, that's like $4,000 or more, the last I checked. You know, for that fancy room, if anybody's ever seen the Bill DeWeese videos, that wonderful room that he's in, that thing gonna set you back about $4,000 or more. You know, versus a couple hundred, if that. And there was a lot of trial and error along the way, so there was some extra spending that went into account. But pretty much, for depending on the size of what you're trying to make it, a couple $100, and I didn't have enough tools as well, so I had to get some extra tools and stuff. But for a couple $100, PVC pipe booth, some moving blankets, some mattress toppers, learning your DAW, some parametric EQ, knowing how to use your noise, knowing how to process audio, and knowing what I've learned, one little audio processing tidbit that I've learned that I put into effect in everything that I do. A little touch of everything, not too much of anything. You don't want to over-process, but you don't want to under-process either. You want to make sure that, you know, because see, if you over-process your audio, because this is digital, if you over-process your audio, it'll get a robotic-y, type of sound. Or you'll be able to hear the, you know, you can really hear the compressor coming on and off if you over-compress. Or if you under-compress, you'll still hear the, or if you have the gain turned up too high, you'll hear the extra noise. Or if all of these little things that you start to kind of learn. Do you have noise coming in on your lines? But that is all into a whole nother thing. But the moral to the story is be economical with it, because the truth be told, when you're getting into anything new, there is a learning curve involved. Now, I'm not saying that people out here can't get out here and get lucky and just be a natural and have it and just start to really get on these platforms and just go boom and explode. Yeah, it's possible. But in most cases, most of us going to have to get out here and grind it out, because we don't know what we don't know. We're going to be making mistakes that we didn't know that we were making. And, and as we start to learn and develop, we'll be able to say, oh, okay, I don't have to do it this way, I can do it that way. Or I don't have to read it this way, I can read it that way. Or when I'm interpreting my scripts, I need to focus on who am I speaking to? Who is my audience? And when I'm speaking to that audience, how do they want to, what What are they listening for? How am I going to engage the person that I'm speaking with? And from a script interpretation standpoint, who is my audience? Who's my audience? Who am I speaking to? I want to connect with them. This read is going to them and learning how to actually do that, how to mark your script up, so that when you're looking at these lines, you can know that even though there's not a pause there, you probably should pause there just to add the extra emotion that a pause can do. But that's all in, all in all of that. But having a solid economical recording environment is key to getting started so that you can be able to actually produce your sound. And there's a ton of videos on that. There's a ton of books. Well, not books. There's a ton of groups on Facebook, that specifically talk about this, all type of designs and all of the different things. And so all type of things you can look into with that. So there's no need to get into the details of that. But the moral to the story is there's a budget way to do it. And if you know how to use your DAW, in addition to doing some good soundproofing, and you don't have all of this extra echo bouncing all around, and you know how to, you got good mic technique and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Once you put the whole picture together, you can come out with a good quality sound. Now, next thing, equipment. Be smart with your resources. Use what you can when you can, but know that you must upgrade. Now, use what you can when you can. Long story short, if you already have a computer, more than likely it's good enough to be able to use the process. Now, when we're starting the process, meaning your post-production stuff. Now, when you start to talk about the actual recording into something, it all depends on what you have. Now, if you already have like a Mac Mini, or you already got like an iMac, and then you're kind of already a good ways down the road, because those are really quiet. And when you're running your equipment into it, it can make everything work a little bit better. When you're using a PC, if your PC isn't extremely, extremely fast, when you start to process audio and start to doing stuff like this, those fans are going to kick on, and it's going to be loud. So know what you can use, what you can't use. There's people out here who talk about the Zoom H5 or the Zoom H6. Not familiar with any of, I'm familiar with them, but that's not what I use. I've been using iPad Pros. I record into an iPad Pro. I record into an iPad Pro that goes into a Focusrite Scarlett preamp that has an XLR mic. Have a MXL 770 up here. But I also have a what's this? I got some pretty high-end cords. I spent more for the cords, just to kind of help to minimize as much little noise as possible. But for the most part, my equipment is rather inexpensive relative to what could be bought. Now, granted, I do know that I'm going to have to upgrade. Yes, I know that I'm going to need to get a more expensive mic. Yes, I know that I really am going to need to that it'll be good if I can update to an Apollo Twin or something like that. I know it'll be great, and I know that I'll eventually need to upgrade to, to like a Mac Mini, because I want to go up to a Mac Mini and start to record into that for my voiceover stuff. But once again, use what you have. Use what you can when you can, and especially footnote. And I'm in the Apple ecosystem. Everybody has their thoughts about Apple, this, that, and the third. That it's your choice. Been using them for a while, comfortable with them. So guess what? That's what I use. So you use what's comfortable for you and what can work best for you. Now, since I'm in this Apple ecosystem and since I'm kind of familiar with it, what's happening now, it's going to be easier to use an iPad to do these type of things because iOS 13 that's coming out is going to have the file management system that's going to allow it to be easier for to use a lower storage capacity iPad Pro, be it to plug your USB-C hub into the side of it, be it to plug in your external hard drives, and boom, you got a quiet interface to record into your iPad and an external hard drive. But it's all in what you want to do. It's all in what you want to do and what's most comfortable for you. You know, I recommend, it's all in what you want to do. You know, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, you got to get, you have to be in the Apple ecosystem and you have to do it like that. Nah, you ain't got to go through all that. You know, I mean, the technology is is at a point right now where the setup that I have here, you can do the same setup with an Android tablet, I'm sure. Because I'm quite sure the software that I use, and I use voice record, an app called Voice Record on my to record my audio into, because it doesn't color my voice at all. It doesn't do anything to my voice. It doesn't add an extra. It doesn't do any processing onto my recorded voice, which is what I want. I don't want the software to be doing any processing because everything is done in the box and not out of the box. The only outside of the box equipment that I have is my Scarlett Focusrite preamp that I got my mic plugged into. But other than that, you know, I don't have an external DBX 286S. I don't have an external noise gate or anything like that. Any gating and any effects and processing, I do that in post. You know, because I have a process for doing everything that I do now with my audio, and I have a system and process for that. So you should have a system and a process as well for how you can get your work done. It's just establishing a decent workflow. So use what you can when you can, and know that you have to upgrade. And for the sake of processing, I knew that I needed, for example, to max out the memory on my existing PC because it just wasn't in the budget to get the iMac that I wanted, or a MacBook Pro that I wanted, or to get the upgraded version of the Mac Mini that I would have loved to have. You know, so you work with what you have and you make it work. More memory for the people who aren't tech savvy. If you max out the memory on any existing machine, you are going to get an upgrade in performance. And for those of us processing audio, when you're using plugins well, let me speak for Adobe. Adobe products typically use a lot of memory, and they require a lot of memory to kind of really run efficiently in my experience with them on a PC. My experience with using them on a Mac has been better, but I'm a Mac fan. Maybe it was just my perception. But aside from all of that, if you just have a PC and it's an old PC and you know that you can't, it's not what you think it should be, max out the memory. Max out the memory. You can get on Newegg, Amazon, anything like that. Max out the memory. That's going to increase your performance. Look at what you have. Think outside the box. It's about producing the high quality sound. These people on the other side that's receiving your product, they want to be able to hear the sound right. They're not concerned whether you're in a PVC pipe booth, a $4,000 whisper room, or a $1 million studio. What does it sound like? If the sound is right, that's all they're concerned with. So that's why we get to what I was saying earlier about learning your DAW, so that you can be able to know how to be able to process any issues and errors that come up when you're doing your work for these wonderful clients that are out there that pay us to speak and engage and provide our amazing, wonderful voices to talk about their products and services and apps and such. So, make a good product. Use what you can, when you can, but know you must upgrade. And then people will sit there and say, well, that's a great idea, Richard. What do you think about the USB versus XLR debate? Me personally, I went with the XLR. Because all of the audio that I was processing using a USB mic that I had, and I was real green. I mean, I'm no expert in Adobe now, but I've learned a lot more now than I did then. So it could have been my processing and some other things. But I went with the XLR because everybody was telling me that the audio that was coming out of my USB mic was trash. So I got into the XLR, started doing that, learned some more about processing, increased my knowledge, and everything got better. I've been using XLR mics ever since. Some people via online and different groups say that they've used the USB mic and it works for them. If the sound comes out right, gets back to my previous point. If the sound is right and the sound quality is good and you can make a broadcast quality, high quality sound from said USB mic, I said go for it until you can afford to really step it up and increase what you're doing and reinvest in yourself and get better equipment. Now, and talked about booth recommendations, marketing. Marketing is still something that I'm really figuring out as far as from the voiceover standpoint. Now with marketing, here's the one thing that I do know that's very important when it comes to voiceover and marketing. Number one, what makes you different? Establish your niche. Establish your brand. What makes you different? If you're doing character voices, why should said animation producer pick you for your voice? What do you bring to the table that's different than the thousands, tens of thousands, literally, of other character voices? What makes you different? What do you bring to the table that's different? Find your niche. And then everything else kind of digs into the debate of the pay-to-plays, the debate of the Fiverr debate, because, you can go through and say, okay, just for the sake of saying it, from a marketing standpoint, if you want to talk about where can voiceover artists get business, okay, we'll go there and we'll kind of talk a little bit about each one, because once again, from a marketing standpoint, I'm still trying to really dig in and figure it out. But like I said, I know, number one, find your niche. You got to be different. Number two, you got to be good at marketing. You got to be good at getting yourself out there to be able to get yourself in front of who needs to hear your voice, which gets back to what I said earlier about finding a good coach so that you can already know where your voice really fits. Where your voice really fits in the industry. Because a good coach will be able to challenge you and pull you and stretch you in some different directions and be able to wake up some things in you that you may not even realize that you had. I mean, this is something new that you're getting into, because I'm talking to the new people. This is not about people who've been doing this for years and years and years and years. I can't speak to you, to be quite honest with you, because I haven't been doing it like that. So I'm just talking to the brand new people who don't know nothing of all, nothing of nothing, but they have a voice, they have some talent, and they want to do this voiceover thing. Any of the people who've been out there for a while, your experience is definitely going to be different, and I'm really trying to learn from the more experienced people myself, which is the whole point of me having a coach that I invest in, to be able to help me grow and to be able to improve my craft, to make me a better voiceover artist. Now, marketing. For the sake of the places a voiceover artist can get work. Freelance sites. They are free. They are free. If I can talk, there are free freelance sites and there are paid freelance sites. Free freelance sites. Freelancer.com, Upwork.com, Fiverr.com. Then you got the paid sites, what they call the pay to plays. Voices 123, The Voice Realm, Voiceover Planet, those type of things. And then another free one is VOQuint. And then for audiobooks, there's ACX. And then if you're looking at, you can also do the email marketing thing, which that's, email marketing, you can do that. There's also, in addition to email marketing, you can go through and put yourself in the local chamber of commerce because you are in business. And the old school way of marketing to businesses, can still work. Now, in addition to that, let's see, what have we missed here? Because I didn't write these down, so I'm kind of going off of memory. In addition to that, there's the social media piece, as far as marketing via social media, and that's that's a whole thing. But once again, it kind of gets down to my thoughts on marketing, and once again, this is something that I'm still figuring out, so I'm just kind of giving you what I see and what I've learned about marketing up to this point. Number one, it's extremely important. I do know that. Because what I'm seeing now in this day and age, the people who are getting the work are the people who get the most work are the people who know how to market themselves the best and get themselves in front of the right people that fit them, that they can add value to. Because at the end of the day, every voice is unique. Every customer is unique. Your voice is specifically suited for projects for certain people every time. All the time. The key is to be able to market yourself, to be able to find out what your niche is, where you fit, what you're good at, how you, what value you can offer to clients, and then strategically market yourself more effectively to get yourself in front of those people that you can add the most value to. Now, and there's all of those ways that everybody throws out there that you can do. Now, the key, and it kind of gets down to figuring it all out. What works for you? What are you comfortable doing? People have said you can do cold calling, and then you start to look at where you fit. People talk about sending emails to video production companies, and all of these things take time. Any type of marketing is going to take some time. But in the midst of it taking time, I want to say first, before you really start to really throw head first in the marketing and putting all of this extra money into setting up an email marketing campaign and buying lists and doing pay to plays and spending all of this extra money and putting yourself out there, I still say make sure that you've learned how to really do this, that you've gotten a good awareness on how to process your audio and how to produce a good, solid quality product. Make sure that you know when you can work, when you can't work, because let's keep it real. We all have this thing called life going on, and we may not be able to record we may not be able to just jump, stop, and just record. It may not be possible for everybody to just stop, drop, and just do that. So you got to know when you can record, when you can't record, what you're going to be, what you can do, what you can't do. How your work schedule is going to work, how your working schedule with voiceover is going to work, and still be able to get out here and work. Because you have to be real with yourself and understand that as you're getting out here and doing this, it's greatly possible that you could have a lot of swings and misses simply due to you not knowing what you don't know, which is why I get back to the first thing I said. Get a good, solid coach to make sure you can know how to really do